Okay, everyone, this is my spoiler review of From Season 3, Episode 9. Before I jump into my review, hit that sub button so you don't miss one of my reviews of Silo and Dune Prophecy, and I also do celebrity interviews. So I'm going to just break my review down into different characters to start, and then we'll just do the whole storyline straight through towards the end, because that's when all the character storylines kind of converge on each other. So let's start with everything going on with Boyd, Ellis, and Donna at the beginning of this episode. Ellis notices Boyd's hand is shaking, and what's new to us is seeing Boyd start to fall. So his legs are starting to give out from his Parkinson's. And it's crazy this far into the show is when Ellis actually finds out about Boyd's Parkinson's when they talk about it and he opens up to him about it. I love when he mentions who he's told and he says he's told Christy, which makes sense because she's a nurse, but he also told Kenny, and you see that little jealousy in Ellis's eyes because that's also like the son Boyd never had. He also mentions to Ellis that Tien Chen, when she died, the monsters made him watch. And then he says he thinks because of this that Fatima, everything happening with her, is because of him. That this is all to break Boyd, everything around him, people he cares about. And that's when he snaps when he sees the monster outside taunting him. And he's pointing the gun at the monster. Another great Boyd moment. But it's really scary what's happening with Boyd. And when we get to the scene with him and Kenny later on, it's even more scary the way he's talking. And you hope to God this show never lets Boyd die, please. Even if they have to have him, like he's saying, at a state where he's very crippled and not really there anymore. You need him in the show. It's like having Michael Scott in The Office. He's like the quarterback of the show. So I hope they don't make that mistake. And they consistently had a good theme in this episode come around about something that's bothered me with the show is that everyone just feels so guilty all the time about something. And they never just say, well, how about we're just in a crazy situation that's supernatural and these monsters are attacking us. And that finally gets that moment here with Jim and Ethan, which we're going to get to, but you see it highlights in this episode everyone and their guilt they usually feel, but finally characters growing and realizing that's not the way to blame yourselves. That's what the monsters want. Now, I also liked when they showed Dawn at the beginning of this episode reflecting on Fatima's anniversary day, because they don't do that a lot in the show, seeing the thoughts of the characters and then translating to the face they're showing in that current moment. And I thought this was a great moment for that with Donna and showing that humanity of her and how much she cared about Fatima and why she would make the decision to not tell everybody about what Fatima did. So that is something I'd like to see the show do more of. I thought that was really nice. Now, speaking of Fatima, let's go to everything with Fatima. And she tells Elgin, I saw that woman you saw, the woman that's telling you to do all this. She's like, that baby is not going to do good things. But Elgin's not listening to this. And he also justifies Fatima killing Tilly by saying the baby was scared and it was hungry. But we don't know if this baby's going to be actually good. Now, Elgin's really stretching things here in logic. Like, he's saying the night he learned she was pregnant, he had that dream that helped Boyd save the town. It's a lot of connections there to really have a strong case of why this would be the way to go for Elgin. And what was wild is him giving his jar of blood to her to drink. True horror there. And then later on, Elgin's like, look, it's moving along because her belly's getting bigger. And she tries to get him with the bed frame, and it's a failed escape attempt. Now let's go to everything with Tabitha, Victor, and Sarah. And things start to get really wild with Tabitha here. So she's just touching Victor at the beginning of this episode and feels this like pause and deep, deep connection. Now, Julie at the clinic won't tell anybody about what she exactly saw, which was frustrating. It was just a dream, but it makes sense. It's a lot for her to kind of just dump right now, especially in a mystery show. And Jim feels like he needs to go talk to Randall now. But I like the angle that he was actually wanting to talk to Randall about what Julie, him, and Mario went through and how can he connect with Julie better. But Randall's like, just forget about it and just teach her to drive. He's like, we're all doomed, basically. But Jim's like, I don't accept that. So Jim's character is taking a great character turn, and his character growth is really come along in this episode. He then tells Tabitha he's all the way with her now and no more second guessing, that he's just going to trust her and give her more respect. I love this, and I think that was so earned with Jim talking to Victor last episode and the mistakes Victor made. So Jim's really growing here and really likable, and it's scary because it almost feels like a real coming around and full journey to his arc and getting that conclusion here that it makes me think we might lose Jim next episode. It's a wild theory, but I have this feeling in my gut that like this is the end of his arc. Now it's interesting, Sarah finishes fixing her brother's snowman and then immediately hears the voices. So this leads to story kind of joining now, where Sarah comes to Boyd and Ellis and tells them the voices she heard, that Fatima didn't leave on her own, that something took her, and she is close and she is afraid, and that they were laughing. So these are obviously the evil voices, and they know you can't find her in time. They want you to know that you can't save her. Now, this is really important because that information is to toy with them and really make them upset and again break Boyd. But we know that the Ankui kids later on are going to guide Julie and Tabitha to where Fatima is. So I think this is confirming that the Ankui kids are good because they're not part of those voices making those phone calls and laughing. Same like the phone call they hear of Ethan later on. I think there's just two entities here, a good and a bad, going on in this show. So they have a meeting here at, which is now Bacta's diner, and they tell everyone that Fatima is missing and need to do search parties. So Boyd slips up at one point and is like, she's close by. And they're like, well, how do you know that? But he recovers by honestly just being honest, saying that something told them this information. And he has like a hype speech, which is great. He hypes everyone up about how they used to be all doomed and not know what to do at night when these monsters came, and they found the talismans, which changed the game, so this place won't break us. We can do that again. We can learn new things to defend themselves. Now, I don't know if anyone else's heart dropped when Elgin is the one who asks Ellis to be his search party partner. I was like, oh boy, here we go. Now, Boyd and Kenny pair up, which is really a great scene because Boyd brings up again how he lied about Sarah with his dad. And he's telling Kenny there's just tough choices that have to be made for the people to live. Tells him his Parkinson is getting worse and the clock is ticking. He says, when I'm gone, I need to know it's you who will step up and leave this place. But Kenny won't take the sheriff badge, but he says he will take his deputy badge back, which is awesome. And I'd love to see Kenny be deputy again for the time being. And that cheers up Boyd. It gives him some hope that there is someone he can trust if he ever goes away. Meanwhile, we finally see Jade in this episode, and he's making his own little bottle tree. And Jade sees Christopher and Jasper. The Jasper scream gets me again. Gets me every time. My skinny pop falls all over me. Now, Henry will ask Jade to come with him to look for Fatima, and he wants to talk about Victor. So Henry tells Jade he reminds him of Victor. This is actually wild because it makes total sense, the path Jade is going down, where he's trying to do all these theories, try to figure everything out, is very to himself. And we learn that Jade's dad has been out of the picture. This is the same thing that Victor has gone through in his life. So can Jade be that kind of story connection like Jim is to Henry and Tabitha is to Miranda? Is there a connection there? But Jade says, Victor is not broken. He's Tarzan growing up in the jungle. You're the guy who comes along and makes him feel like an a-hole because he doesn't know how to use a fork. So it's really good writing here. Jade is given the best lines in the show, no doubt. And it's totally true what he says there. Now, Victor goes to chop this faraway tree, but the boy in the white yells at him to stop, who's looking older now. He's like, you can't do that. But he says he won't help them because he tried with Christopher. He's like, I think you need to learn yourselves. Only way you'll understand, aka only way to keep this show going is a mystery show. But he does say he is his friend when Victor asks him if he's his friend, and he just tells him don't cut down the tree, and that's it. So Victor's story with the boy in white wasn't too interesting, a little weaker for me, especially in a penultimate episode. Now, Elgin is trying to ease Ellis when he's paired with him, and Ellis will tell him about his mom. And he's like, I can't go through that again. So that puts a little guilt for Elgin here. And then Elgin sounds like John Locke from Lost when he goes, what if this is all happening for a reason? What if Fatima's out there doing something to help us? And like Boyd before, he slips up a little bit, saying something about the baby. So it makes Ellis skeptical now. So that's going to be the big story in this finale, is how is this all going to go down with Elgin, Fatima, Ellis, Boyd, and Tabitha? There's so much. So I'm very excited for the finale at this point. Now, a great scene that's probably going to be slept on is this scene with Jim and Ethan at the RV. And you see that Ethan tells Jim that he was scared and was doing the best he could. A very smart kid at that age to say that about Jim when they drove there and them crashing. And Jim says back to Ethan the same thing. He's got to think that way about what happened to Julie because they learned in the diner from Julie that Ethan feels guilt about what happened to her. And this is what I was talking about, where finally the show, they confront that's the wrong way of thinking. Where Jim says, this place wants to blame ourselves, be scared. What matters is how we face these things and always do our best. So I really love this, and he's getting it now. He's getting that this place wants to make them torment themselves and each other and blame each other when it's really these monsters' fault. and you see they have Thomas on the radio, but they're both able to walk away now. They know it's a trick and a trap, and it's not really Thomas. So I really like that. And again, it makes me scared for Jim because it feels like his character's come full circle now. So it makes you wonder if he might just have like a heroic moment next episode and die. We'll see. Now, Julie opens up to Tabitha, and she, thank God, tells her, because that frustrating thing with the show in the past has been people not telling each other information, but she tells Tabitha about what she really saw in the ruins. And you just wish if she could tell Boyd at some point she threw a rope down a well, because then that would be a huge connection and a game changer, which I think will eventually happen. But Tabitha has this information now, which is going to be important, but Tabitha then sees the Ankui kid, and the Ankui kid wants them to follow. Meanwhile, Fatima finds a trapdoor under where she is, can't get to open, so you're wondering if that all just connects that trapdoor to the caves straight into that cell. But you see the ghost is keeping Fatima quiet so no one can hear her in this final scene. And Julie and Tabitha arrive at the cellar, and Tabitha touches the cellar door and really feels that connection again now. Finds Victor in the cell moping, and he's like, I was the reason she died, again, sticking to the theme about guilt here. And Tabitha comforts him, saying, wasn't your fault, you were just a little boy, and hugs him and feels a direct connection to Miranda hugging him and Eloise. So she's getting Miranda's memories now when she steps outside, running through the woods to the bottle tree and being killed by the Smiley monster. So she's fully feeling that connection now to the point where it's spooking her to, I think, that she's some kind of reincarnation of Miranda. There's a connection to Miranda. She's feeling what Miranda went through, even if it's not a reincarnation, that she has some kind of power to feel a connection to someone like Miranda, that maybe the two chosen ones just connect that way. Very interesting. I really like that. And overall, I'm going to give this episode an 8.4 because I really like the stuff going on with Jim and his character. I really liked everything going on with Boyd, Ellis, and Kenny. And Fatima stuff with Tabitha and Julie was very interesting at the end, and what's going on with Elgin. So it's a good penultimate episode. It's not amazing. I still like the prior episode a little more, but I still enjoyed this, and it gives me a lot of hope for the finale. It's set up things really well. I hope the finale sticks the landing, though, and it could be the best finale this show has had to date. If it does that, I would say season 3 has been the best season for sure, but we'll see. Let me know your thoughts on the episode and your theories. I read every comment, try to respond as many as I can. Hit that sub button so you don't miss one of my reviews of From, and I'll see you next time.